Hey guys, this is going to be my November wrap-up and my December TBR, where I go through the books I read in November and tell you really briefly what I thought about them, and then go through the books that I'm planning to read in December. I read 5 books in November. I don't actually have any of them to show you because they're all either on my Kindle or they're physical books that I no longer have with me. I took as much home as I possibly could over Thanksgiving, so I'll have less to take home at Christmas. Because since I am moving out, I have to move everything out. So I tried to do as much of that as I could before. First book that I finished in November, and I actually finished it on November 1st, is Why Didn't I Learn This in College? Teaching and Learning in the 21st Century by Paula Rutherford. This was a book that my mentor teacher during student teaching gave me from the school library to read. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Mostly it was a lot of what I learned in my education classes, I think, which means that it was a lot of good advice and is a good resource, I think, if you can keep it around and like refer back to it. The next book I finished in November was 30 Days, Change Your Habits, Change Your Life by Mark Rucklau, I believe. I gave this 2 out of 5 stars. Just didn't like it. I did do a review of it that explains why I disliked it. But it was a lot of really short chapters that seemed really repetitive. I feel like so many of the chapters could have been combined into larger chapters and it would have like flowed better. And I just don't feel like I got much from the book. And I read Breaking In, The Rise of Sonia Sotomayor and the Politics of Justice by Joan Biskupic, which I gave 3 out of 5 stars. I was really excited to read about Sonia Sotomayor because she is such an interesting person, and I did really like the book. I just feel like it focused too much on like the circumstances before Sonia Sotomayor became a justice, and so that was a little annoying. I just wish the book had like a slightly different focus. Exposition by Melissa Braden, I gave 4 out of 5 stars. That was a book that I got for review from NetGalley. It's about ballet and about 2 ballerinas in particular who fall in love with each other, and it was a really cute love story. It's an LGBT book, which is awesome, and I really enjoyed it. It was a really nice, like, simple love story book. Last book that I finished in November was Dear Chairman, Boardroom Battles and the Rise of Shareholder Activism by Jefferson Graham, which I gave 3 out of 5 stars. I haven't gotten a chance to review this one yet, actually. It's on my to-do list for later today to write a review for my blog. Basically, this is about shareholders, people who own stock in businesses, and the rise of activism where they like do things, write letters to the chairman and like get involved in the business to help the business run better, or with the intention of helping the business run better. Whether or not it actually works depends on the situation, but the book kind of explores how that happened over time and how shareholders didn't used to be involved in businesses and now it's become more common and things like that. It was a topic that I knew almost nothing about or anything about before reading, and it was interesting. Not necessarily my like favorite go-to, a topic I want to read a ton about, but the book was definitely written in a way where you didn't really need to know much like economics, businessy stuff to understand what was going on or like what they were talking about. It was really interesting, and I got to learn some stuff that I had never known before. For my TBR, I'm currently reading 3 books, which I hadn't really thought about until I had to do this TBR, but one of the books is still the Norton Anthology of Theory and Criticism. I'm this far in it, by the way, and this has been in TBR videos for like, what, a year now or something, it feels like. I actually think it's only been since the summer, maybe, I don't know. I promise I am reading some of this every month. It's just very long and the pages are very thin, and eventually I will get through it. It will probably take a couple years at this point, but it's being read. It's still in my TBR. Also currently reading Will Grayson by John Green and David Levithan. The dust jacket is at home. I didn't bring it to school with me because I started reading this while I was home and the pages got bent in my suitcase. I'm very upset about it. I love this book. I hadn't read it since high school, I don't think. I don't think I'd read it since I was a senior in high school. I love it so much. I know that there's a sequel now that's like, I think it's Tiny's play, like his musical, I think in book form is my understanding of what the sequel is. I want it so badly, but I don't have it yet, and I haven't read it or anything, but I want to, and this is making me want to even more. I'm about almost halfway, so I'm rereading that right now. And the last book that I'm currently reading is In Wartime, Stories from Ukraine by Tim Judah, which I got for review through Blogging for Books, and it's about the current situation in Ukraine, but it talks about it by exploring like the historical context of the situation in Ukraine, and it's definitely focusing on a lot more of the history of the region than I would have expected. I know very little about Ukraine. I know some about it in relation to like the USSR and stuff, but not a ton, and I'm learning so much from this book. Once I finish that book, I'm going to move on to Atmosphere of Hope, Searching for Solutions to the Climate Crisis by Tim Flannery, which is about the climate, as you can tell. As far as I'm aware, this is just like a general overview of the climate change and what we can do about it. The author is a leading scientist and climate writer, and I'm pretty excited to read this because I've read a lot about climate change. It's just all been online. Actually, just last semester I had to write like a big paper on climate change, and having this would have been really convenient then. So I've done a decent amount of reading and research on climate change, not just because of that paper, but because for various personal reasons, like wanting to. But I'm really excited for this, and it's been sitting on my shelf for a while. I also won this from Goodreads, I should mention, and I'm really excited to read it. I downloaded The Hound of the Baskervilles by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle because it was free on Kindle and such, and I've never actually read any Sherlock Holmes. That's a lie. That's a lie, actually. I have read Sherlock Holmes in literature anthologies for English classes, for one English class in particular. In my Brit Lit class, when we studied that time period, we read a bit of Sherlock Holmes. So I have actually read Sherlock Holmes, but I've never for fun sat down and read like a Sherlock Holmes book. So I'm gonna do that. That is what I plan to read in December, and I will see you guys later. Bye.